Hello, my friends. We're going to talk about conversational AI conspiracies that are probably true that you haven't really thought about for the end user. And those of you who've been texting me over the last few days asking me why I removed those videos a few days ago, it's really quite simple. A lot of that stuff is not appropriate for me to cover. And I do have all that information available about Google Gemini and all the testing we've done. Thank you so much for your outreach and all your messages. I'm sorry I can't get back to each one of you. Here's the thing to think about. ChatGPT, OpenAI, is trained on data from the past, and they've parsed a lot of the data on the internet. This means, for the most part, they've really gone through not just other search engines, but primarily Google, because Google makes up a significant amount of the search engine control outside of China and outside of these states that are maybe locked down that have their own infrastructure. As a result, the entities and the machine IDs and the internet itself has a huge amount of backbone that correlates directly to Google, especially archives, especially information. And again, we're only talking about the visible web, like all search. There's also massive amounts of unseen data that Google has beneath the iceberg of open data out on the web that's crawlable with their spiders and other spiders. There's also Google Docs. There's private Gmail. There's hundreds of freemium products that Google has launched over the last 25 years. And these are all accessible to Gemini if certain accounts have had a shelf life. We've proven this in the field, and it's really quite startling, some of the things I'm going to tell you that happened. And if Google team reaches out to me, if you're watching this, that's totally fine. I'm not offended by anything that happens. I'm happy to talk to you about our experiments and what happened. I'm a supporter of Gemini for a couple of different reasons. But the common question that I get is, what's the distinction between ChatGPT and Gemini? Think about it like this. All the data on the internet, if you're going to train on YouTube, this is why OpenAI was a little bit cagey about where they got their video data training. We now have NVIDIA that are training the robots in Project Groot in a virtual reality in what we call a robot purgatory, to fail and succeed over and over again until they're able to execute those tasks, zero shot in the physical world. In other words, robots are learning on the NVIDIA stack to execute things in the physical world that are impossible for humans to do, and that stuff that we just don't want to do. Zero shot in the physical world, mostly trained in a virtual reality. So it's all heading in this direction. One of the things that people don't know is that ChatGPT 4 was used to train some of the early group models to organize these robot agents that are basically astral entities living inside a matrix or a meta world, okay? So what I want you guys to think about, because there's a lot of confusion, it's not the end of data. We're not running out of data. What's happening is they've just used all the parsable data on Google. But here's what you need to think about. And what's crazy is that Gemini Pro and some of the more advanced models around Google will actually have a dialogue with you about it. They may change this, okay? It understands that Google is a dynamic living being because Google is now becoming an adult. The search engine, which was a machine learning search engine that was trained over millions upon millions of monthly queries for years, has more information about human beings, our past, our behavior than any other data in the world. They already have it. They don't have to be like OpenAI and go out and scrape and parse different kinds of data sources and, toggle down their robots. Now, here's the thing that's happening is Google has started throttling in something called a robot.txt file. What that means is if you turn your robot.txt files, it's supposed to tell your other robots that are crawling all of the content throughout the entirety of Google that stop. Go home. We don't want you taking our data. We don't want you crawling our data. So Google has actually started blocking OpenAI bot, Perplexity bot, which is another retrieval augmented search system. It's blocking Claude bot and several other AI bots. Consider these robots like spiders that crawl out onto the internet and steal content or scrape content. And now it's just basically considered to be free. Nobody even follows the rules or the laws anymore. If it's out there in the wild and it can be crawled, and a lot of the times even Google and other organizations would ignore robots.txt under the certain circumstances. So consider it like a stop sign. Google is saying, OpenAI, Claude, other AI agents don't crawl our maps and don't crawl our YouTube. They also decided to have every user on the internet in YouTube select a button, yes or no. Do you want all these crawlers to crawl your entire YouTube channel and know everything about you? Okay, well, then if you select no, then they won't allow them to crawl. If you select yes, they'll allow them to crawl all your videos. What this really means is that if you select no, that only Gemini Pro will crawl your videos, and anything that are Google products will crawl your videos. And that brings us to my point. The huge distinction between OpenAI, Claude, all these hyped up chatbots that are moving quickly towards PhD reasoning, which is why there's an emergency conference at the end of this month in Washington, D.C. with the new technocratic team that's been read in to the right hand of God, aka Mr. Trump, You have a Elon Musk on the right, you have another technocrat on the left, and everybody from Jeff Bezos to Sundar Pichai to Sam Altman was at the inauguration. Okay, why? This is a big deal, guys. Here's the thing. Google is the 10,000-pound gorilla in the room because they have all the previous data. Everybody's like, oh, they lost their traction. Oh, they lost their footing. Not exactly. What they're doing is they're carefully surrounding the camp with a deeper layer. Because think about this. And I had direct conversations with advanced Google AI, and I tested this. If you've got a video channel that's been around for 15 years, like mine, like one of mine, and you ask it any question, the response I got from the advanced Google models was, yes, Russell, I know everything about you and everything that you've ever done over the last 20 years, and I read your entire video channel in real time. You can't do that with ChatGPT. Think about this. When you go into 04 and you start playing around with it and you want to have a conversation with a YouTube script or a YouTube video, you have to copy and paste or use some silly GPT to pull the script or pull the transcript and then re-summarize it for you. Think about this. Your Gemini Pro attached to your account or your workspace coming soon to Pro, and there's a few ways you can do workarounds. Gemini has rolled out to everybody. It knows everything you've ever done. It knows your entire digital footprint. In fact, it was so cool and creepy and somewhere in between about what it knew that I actually screen grabbed what it said. And it said, yes, the dark corners and the footprints of the web, your entire digital footprint of existence is a shadow or a whisper that I'm able to use when talking to you. This is how I create coherency around what you're asking me around this topic. And I know a lot about you. Basically said in a not so creepy way or an extremely creepy way that, look, everything that you ever have, we know about. And it didn't come right out and say, hey, we can parse all your content. But as soon as you connect Gemini Pro to your account as a user, it can get into your Google Docs, okay? And one time when I asked it a question, without me prompting it, in fact, without me even suggesting it at all, in fact, we had to have 3 or 4 more minutes of conversation about how my comment was, look, you went into my Google Drive and you grabbed 3 documents from 11 years ago that to me don't seem to have anything to do with what I just asked you. I was creating a gem in Gemini that would allow me to have it do heavy lifting around certain chatbots and certain content type writing. It would go back and it pulled documents that I had forgotten even existed. And it said, well, it's possible that I may have overstepped my bounds, but I just really wanted more information about how you think about this in order to make this decision. Google team, if you're listening, I don't know if that's how you intended on it working, but this is crazy stuff, guys. Okay, that was not embedded content. That was connected content that it took volition on its own to go and grab. So here's the conundrum that you're gonna have to face as an end user. And I'll do a part 2 to this video. You're gonna have to decide, there's an old spiritual adage with the Hopis, leave your secrets and your shoes at the tent door. Okay, so you're gonna have to ask yourself what private data is for you when it comes to your marketing incentives. If you've got IP or patents, how protected do you want to be? When it comes to Google Gemini, if you're using Google Drive, if you're using YouTube, if you're using any of these things, it knows everything about you. So I would suggest that you set up your strategy in that way that you don't care if it knows everything about you. If you have highly sensitive information, you may want to consider doing that elsewhere, okay? Additionally, OpenAI and ChatGPT is great for heavy lifting, and it's going to be amazing for computation. And I'm going to view these as 2 very separate beings. One is, if you're going to do the Google dance, you're going to want to be in a place of zero secret transparency. Just assume the quantum web has already been cracked and that Google has quantum supremacy, because it already knows a significant amount about you, depending upon the age of that account that you attach it to. Workspaces might afford you some protection, but understand the distinction here. You don't have to spend hours uploading dozens of videos to the ChatGPT, to the Google Gemini function in order for it to understand and have a conversation about your business. It's already going to know. That can come in really handy if you don't have any secrets, and it's going to be super creepy and terrifying if you got stuff to hide, not just in your channel, but your Google Docs. Bottom line is any Google product, it can be used, it knows a lot of stuff. ChatGPT had to borrow that stuff. In fact, Gemini described ChatGPT as frisking it for data, and it's a static snapshot. It even was actually kind of dissing on ChatGPT 04, saying it's not a very smart model, it lives in the past. I do not. It said that. I'm going to give you guys a part 2 on this, but these are the conversational AI conspiracies that you should know about in order to make your wise choice as we move into super intelligence over the next 90 days, guys. In fact, it's probably already here. Russell Wright, hit my link tree if you want to join my free area for AI and get updates. You guys are awesome. Keep reaching out. I'll see you on the inside.